So now you're at your chapter review. So I'm going to go ahead over some slides that's going to help you answer these questions. So make sure you are paying very close attention to the slideshow and to what I'm saying. These questions are actually going to help you on your assessment tomorrow. You're going to have very similar questions being asked on the assessment. You're going to need to be able to write a claim and find evidence within some of these slides. So make sure you're paying very close attention. Make sure you're thinking about what I'm saying as you watch the video. Let's go ahead real quick and review amplitude and wavelength. So when I see these three sound waves, I know that these are three different sounds. I know that there are three different sounds because I see three different patterns. I see the same amplitude out of all sound waves, and when I think amplitude, I think about the height of the wave. The height of the wave and all of these are touching from top to bottom of the tape, from top to bottom again in all three of these. So I know that the amplitude has stayed the same. The amplitude is loud enough to be heard from heard by the listener. Now what I do notice is different here is the pitch. And so we're going to go ahead and read these sound waves so that we know how to read them and that we know the difference between these pitches. So sound wave 1, I'm noticing that the distance here is long. We go from long to short and back to long. So if this is long, short, long, that means this is low pitched, high pitched, low pitched. That is sound wave number 1, and that is how I read it. This is a little different for sound wave number 2. We have sort of the opposite, but I want us to notice before we start reading it, I want us to notice that there is a difference between this pattern here and this pattern. This is long, but this is not quite long as the long pitch, the long wavelength in sound wave number 1. This is actually medium. This is not long because it is not the same distance as what's above. So this is not long. It is going to be medium. So as we read sound wave number 2, please know that difference. So we have here for sound wave number 2, this is a shorter distance, medium distance, and back to shorter distance, which means or translates into sound as high-pitched, medium-pitched, and back to high-pitched. So we've read 2 sound waves so far. I want you to just take 10 seconds to think about what sound wave number 3 would sound like if you already know that this is low-pitched, high-pitched, low-pitched, high-pitched, medium-pitched, high-pitched. Take 10 seconds to read sound wave number 3 on your own. All right, so you should have come up with, because this is a short distance and this is back to being a long distance, as in sound wave number 1, this is high pitched and this is low pitched. That is how you read the wave printouts. You are going to need to know how to read them for your assessment tomorrow in order to find evidence to prove your claim. So please make sure in your assignment today that you're reading the wave printouts and you're actually thinking about the questions that are being asked. It is to your benefit. It is going to help you on your assessment tomorrow. So don't cheat yourself. Going to the next slide, we have 3 different calls again, and these are 3 different from what we just saw for the most part. This is exactly what you're going to see on your assessment tomorrow. So you want to make sure you're thinking as I'm speaking. Pause the video if you need to. Go back and rewind if you need to because you don't understand something. Call or text me if you need to for better understanding. So we have call 1, call 2, call 3. Make sure you're reading the information that's available to you. That's going to be helpful. Call 1 says, call from the mother dolphin that the calf did not hear. So we need to figure out why the calf didn't hear this mother's call. Call 2, call from the mother dolphin that the calf heard and responded to. So this was the call that the calf heard from the mother and was able to recognize it as its mother and was able to respond to. Call 3, call from another dolphin that's not the mother that the calf heard but did not respond to. The calf didn't respond to this call because it was not its mother. So you need to make sure you know the difference between all 3 of these. Now let's go ahead and think about these printouts and see what the difference is. Call 1, he didn't respond to. So let's figure out why. This is the call that he responded to. Now the patterns look they look almost identical, but we're going to think about it and we're going to realize that they're not. The pitch is identical. The pitch is identical, meaning we have short distance here, long distance here, short distance here, long distance here. So that means the mother's call has a high pitched sound and it goes into a low pitched sound. Now, because the pitches are the same, you're asking yourself, okay, so what's the difference? Here's the difference. Notice the height in this call 1 versus the height in call 2. This height is greater or taller than the height in call 1. If the height is taller, we know we're dealing with amplitude, and if it's taller, we know that it's louder. And if call 2 was louder, that means call 1 was not loud enough. It was too quiet. It was too quiet because it did not have a taller amplitude. So, just like if, for example, if you're in your bedroom and your mother is calling you from the kitchen, your mother's sound still has to be loud enough to go through the walls for you to hear in order for you to know that she's saying something to you. Same here for the mother dolphin and the calf. This call was not loud enough for the dolphin to hear, therefore he didn't respond. But now, once the call got louder, the calf was able to hear its mother's call and respond. Let's think about the difference between call 2 and call 3. The calf heard both of these calls at the same time. However, he didn't respond to this one. He knew better. He knew that wasn't his mother. So we got to figure out, well, why? How did he know the difference? And this is how. Don't forget that we talked about this being a loud, high-pitched to low-pitched sound. Here, this is the complete opposite. It doesn't start out high-pitched because we know that this pattern is completely different. Call 3 starts out with a low-pitched sound, quickly goes to high-pitched sound, and then right back to a low-pitched sound. So it's low, high, and low. That is not the call of its mother, because the call of its mother, again, is high-pitched to low-pitched. So there is a difference between call 2 and call 3. The calf knows that his mother's sound does not start with a low-pitched sound. So he doesn't even hear that. Or responds to it. Instead, he's hearing the high-pitched to low-pitched sound that his mother sounds like. I want to quickly go over some definitions that you're going to need to know and be able to point out on your assessment tomorrow. We've talked about these definitions over and over again, but you need to be able to recognize them on a diagram to be able to answer the question correctly. On the assessment, you're going to get a diagram without the definitions that's just going to have arrows like this, and you're going to need to be able to tell me what those arrows represent. So when I look at the arrow that's going vertical from up and down, I know that that deals with amplitude simply based on us seeing it all week. So when I think about the arrow going up and down, I know that's amplitude. When I think about the arrow going from left to right or across, that is wavelength. The arrow is going to be in the showing the distance between those two peaks. We know that that is wavelength. Going to some definitions that we haven't quite had, however, we've sort of mentioned before in our lessons. When you see the arrow pointing at the very top or the very tip or the point of the wave, that is your peak. Okay, the peak simply means the point at the top of anything. So again, the peak is simply the top or that tip or that point of the wave. It will simply be pointing at the tip of that wave or the pointy part of that wave. This is a new one for us. However, I think with having the word bottom in it, we should be able to get it. This is called the bottom, aka trough of a waveform. It is the bottom. It is pretty much the opposite of the peak. And that's pretty much what you need to remember because this is a new one for us. I don't want us to get tricked up on it. So what is at the bottom is simply at the bottom. It is not the wavelength. It is not the amplitude. It is not the peak. It is the bottom. Here at the top, we have the peak, and let's quickly go over it again. Up and down is amplitude. Across left to right is wavelength. Make sure you are getting this down, getting this information, because again, it will be on your assessment just like it is on your assignment today.